In this video, guys, we're going to look at identifying a strong trend with the VWAP. Stay tuned. Hey traders, a very warm welcome to you. So VWAP is volume weighted average price. Now, I'm not going to go into the full details of how it's calculating this. I have done another video talking about the VWAP. What I'm going to talk about in this video is how to identify a strong trend by using the VWAP. Now, what use is that, you might ask? It's useful when we want to plug into potentially an algo or a filter what the trend is doing intraday and spit out something like, hey, this is a strong trend, hey, it's not. It's also useful when you're eyeballing a trend and you've got that anchor point in the VWAP and you can say, you know what, this trend's pretty strong, and then positioning from that, whether that is taking an exhaustion play, pretty risky in my opinion, or finding that pullback area to jump on board for a further push. Or another option is waiting for at the end of the day, seeing how the market is traded throughout the day. If it's really strong, maybe you'll take an end of day play for a further gap up and a continuation the next day. Or finally, I'm thinking about all these ideas in my head as I'm talking, or you can go the next day and say, okay, that was a strong trend the day before. Any dip at the open, now I'm gonna buy. Let's talk about some of those anyway. So what are we looking for? Right, so we've got our axis here, and we've got our market, and it's chugging on, and it's really chugging. It's pulling back a little bit, and then it's chugging, right? A really decent, strong trend. But how do we identify it's a strong trend? It's where the VWAP comes in. So the VWAP in red would be something like, under normal conditions, a market is going to, let's do that in kind of a smaller chart here. So under normal conditions, you know, the VWAP, even if we're on a trending day, a VWAP is going to be, you know, sitting like here. You might get some tests, and on a strong trend, that's what it would look like. You might test it once, might test it twice, and a good trend will still spend most of the day above the VWAP. Perhaps it will be there. Most of the days you're going to do trade either side of the VWAP, but you know, you're going to get a mixture of the two. But on brutally strong trend days, this is kind of what it looks like. It's constantly well away from the VWAP. It's not even coming back to test it. People are just buying. Now, what does that actually mean? What's the whole point of that? It means that if you assume that that's a mean price, it's not really, but assume it is because it's a volume weighted average. It's as good enough as a mean. And a lot of algos are using it. A lot of funds are using it as a benchmark. If people are still buying at this distance away from the VWAP, which is considered bad value, if you like, for most people, then you could consider that supply-demand imbalance is significantly shifted away in the direction of the demand side. So what you do is you would say, okay, what is the average distance, if you like, or the maximum distance, or the current distance, whatever at timestamps from the VWAP, the VWAP to the price. And if you're getting a reasonable percentage, if you're getting a reasonable number of ticks, however you want to quantify it, you can then class that as a strong trend. And again, put that into a filter, put that into a scanner, or just by eyeball. You can eyeball that and say, hey, that was a reasonable trend. Now that's a strong trend. We're closing at highs here. Do I want to take that next day play, like I say, which is either buying at the close, looking for a continuation, or even better, waiting for the next day, waiting for it to dip below it on the next day, assuming you're going to at least take out that high or at least fill the gap and then jumping on it for a scalp to new highs. Because something like this, guys, if it's significantly imbalanced, potentially it's going to run for a few days, because that really, to me, in my opinion, if I saw a chart like that, I would say, hey, supply demand imbalance is significantly in the favor of the demand, and it doesn't seem to have resolved itself yet because we've closed well away from the volume weighted average price. You know, buyers are fully in control here. My expectancy is that the next day they will again step in and control, because it looks to me like they haven't done all the business that they wanted to do. It looks to me like they haven't fulfilled all the orders that they wanted to fulfill. So you can eyeball it, number one. You can put it into an algo and say, hey, what's the distance between the price and the VWAP? And you could timestamp that and say, okay, what about lunchtime? What about every hour? And average it off every hour, something very simple like that. Stick it into a sheet, and then it just gives you these stocks, and it scans the stocks, and it says, okay, these 5 stocks were very aggressive above the VWAP or below the VWAP if we're talking about a downtrend. They might be then in your screener for the next day play. Maybe you're looking for a next day continuation or whatever it may be. So this is really useful. VWAP has been one of my favorite indicators for a long time now. I think it's one of the best things you can have on your screen if you're trading intraday. If you're swing trading, this is less important because generally the VWAP is an intraday indicator because it's talking about the volume done during the day, and you get to see how price relates to that average, that mean, if you like. Like I say, most of the time we're oscillating around the VWAP, but when we do get a big stretch away from it, I mean a decent stretch, not just a trend like that. Not to say there's not a setup to be had from that, there is, but in this video we're talking about the really strong trends. When we get a really strong trend away from the VWAP, then we want to take notice and say, hey, actually, you know what? Because that supply-demand imbalance has shifted so much, it's potentially an opportunity for us to jump on this either during the day or on a day two play. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up is much appreciated. If you're a subscriber, I appreciate your support. If you're not, maybe consider doing so for more videos from me and others on the channel. Talk about improving trading, talk about strategies, all the good stuff to get us from here to there as a trader. Take care, whatever you're doing. Bye-bye.